Okay. Testing. Is that working right? Okay, good. Um, well, it's really great to see you all. I think this is probably the smallest service we've ever had, um, which is not a bad thing. We have 20 people from our community who are in New York who attended the Madison Square Garden event. And I watched the broadcast yesterday. We had a bunch of people yesterday, and we had a really nice time. And I just really thought it was a fantastic event, and I'm really grateful that we could support 20 of our own members to go, and I feel really good about that personally. Am I coming through loudly enough? Okay. I can't hear myself, so okay, great. So I want to share a little bit today about something that's very important to me. So earlier this week, before my wife left for New York, we really made the decision that we need to clean up our house. And we have, up until now, when people would come over, we would clean up our public area, the dining room basically, and the kitchen, but then the rest of the house would be a disaster. It would be where we put all the stuff that we cleaned up from the kitchen, and the dining room would all go into that room. Thank you. And I never felt good about it, but we never did anything about it. And this, went on for months and 6 months, and I don't even know how long it's been that way, but it was that way for a long time. And every time I would look at the mess in our bedroom, I would look at the mess in our kids' room, I would just feel really embarrassed about it, but I could tell it was so much work that it just wasn't something that I really felt like dealing with. And I kind of always go back in my mind, I was thinking, well, if I didn't have kids, this would be so easy, that I wouldn't have to, I could just, I could be in charge of the messes that I make, and I could be in charge of the cleanup of my own messes. Why do I have to be cleaning up somebody else's mess? Especially like my 18-month-old child and my 5-year-old daughter and things like that. And it would always end up being excuses why I didn't have to do or could put off doing the things that I felt were really important to do. And I don't know why it felt so important for us to clean up the mess, but I think that there was something very uncomfortable about it. And as I reflected on it, so this week we really made the effort. Okay, we are going to clean up. My mom's going to come over, watch the kids, and we're just going to spend the whole afternoon just cleaning. And we did it. And we had to make that extra effort, but we worked at it for hours. We didn't get everything done, but we cleaned up a lot of stuff. Went to the thrift store. A lot of stuff went in the garbage. Found a lot of stuff that why do we have this? What's its purpose? And what even is this? Like, where did it come from? Stuff like that. And eventually, we felt really good, like that we had actually made the effort to do that. But it really reminded me of something that I've been thinking about ever since, and this whole idea of when people would come over, everything would seem nice and clean in the house. But in the background, the stuff you don't see, it's a mess. And there was something about that I just didn't feel good about it. And I think that it really reflects life in a way too, because sometimes, especially now with the internet and social media, we can look really good on the outside. Can be really friendly to people, be really nice, and be a good conversationalist. Give people hugs, shake people's hands. We can put up on our Facebook feed things that look really nice about our life, but then maybe in reality, if you look behind the scenes, maybe there's a lot of garbage. Maybe there's a lot of stuff that maybe we're not so proud of, or maybe a little bit ashamed of. And it really brought me back to this, something that I read many years ago. I don't know if you remember this. For those of you who are longtime members of our church, our founders, Reverend and Mrs. Moon, who we call affectionately, True Mother and True Father, asked us many years ago to read these peace messages. I don't know how many of you remember this, but there was, where's this book? Here it is. So here's a book, and this has peace messages in it. So these were messages that were given by True Father over the course of several years, all relating around peace. There's many, many different topics. He talked about the fishing industry. He talked about this bridge or this road that would go from South America all the way to Europe and Africa, and it would interconnect all the continents, and it would help, basically all topics that related to world peace. He talked about helicopters. He talked about fishing. He talked about many, many, many different things. And he asked us to reread these basically every day. So for a year and a half, the group I was with at that time, we read these speeches every day. And some speeches are like a page long, and some speeches are like 20 pages long. And so on the days where we read this 20-page speech, we would be reading for like an hour and a half or something like that. And it was kind of interesting because if you attend any of Reverend Moon's speeches in the past, he would often talk for many, many, many hours about the same thing. He would reiterate and say over and over again the same. He talked about many and many of the same topics. And the peace messages are very similar. In the peace messages, you can actually find some peace messages have the same section, just repeated in different parts. And there was a time where I really questioned, like, why are we just rereading the same thing over and over and over again? Like, I get it, like maybe if I just read it a few times, it's enough. I understand actually. But actually, you learn this in college too, right? You only really retain like a small fraction of what you actually learn or what you actually read. And so to repeat and repeat and repeat many times is the only way to really keep something in your mind. There's probably other ways too, but I was remembering something that stuck in my mind after all these years, because this was maybe 6 or 7 years ago that we were doing that. And it was this point in the speech, and I'm sorry I don't have a PowerPoint, but I'm just going to read. Here's a quote. He says, "Is there anything that cannot be resolved within the family? When parents and children, husband and wife, and elder and younger siblings set an example of living for the sake of one another, how could they do anything unforgivable? What reason would they have to commit crimes? A world governed by the heavenly way and the heavenly laws is a natural world, an unobstructed world of truth and pure reason, and a world of the settlement of noon, where no shadows are cast." So some of you may remember that this was a very kind of a hot topic at that time, this concept of high noon, exactly, of a time or a way of living where there are no shadows. And so it's kind of an interesting an image to think about, because a high noon, right, is where the sun is directly overhead and there's no shadow. Like, when the sun is rising or when the sun is setting or anywhere in between, your body or the buildings, they put off a shadow one way or the other, right? But when the sun is directly above us, there's no shadow. And it's an analogy that we have no secrets. We have no things to be ashamed of or to hide, or that, especially in front of God and in front of one another. And it brought me back, when I was thinking about our cleaning, it brought me back to this thing that we were reading about, the high noon and the no shadows, because I realized that even though this is maybe a certain aspect of my life, the cleanliness thing, but I think that it relates to many different areas of life, in that I've got this clean area of my house, but then I've got the messy area of my house, and I am going to shut those doors because I don't want anyone to see that. And not that it's a terribly shameful thing that we have a mess in our house, but it's not something that I'm proud of or we're proud of, and it's not something that we feel happy to share with everybody. Hey, everyone, you want to see the rest of our house? Don't worry about this stuff, let's check this out. Or let's check out the bathroom, It's like, hey, we have 4 kids, and that's kind of a mess in there. But as I live my life, somehow I'm always reminded about this this kind of a concept of this high noon, or this living a life without shadows. It's actually really not easy. It's really not easy to live that kind of life because for different reasons, maybe because of embarrassment or because of maybe we don't want to be boastful, or maybe maybe I don't know, felt judged in the past. It's not easy to put ourselves out there, like all of us, right? Even those of you who are married or have been in really serious relationships, you know how difficult it is many times to even share those things about yourself with your spouse that are not going to be that inspiring to them, maybe not going to be that attractive to them, but you know that they're a part of you that has to come out at some point someday. But in some ways we want to protect ourselves. We want to protect and we want to just show the good. So when I was thinking back on what Reverend Moon was saying about the high noon settlement, high noon concept and no shadows, it really kind of gave me a new determination in my life. Not only do I want to clean out my bedroom, but I also want to clean out my life. I think that one of the reasons, there's many reasons why me and Adonia, when we come up to speak, we share about very personal things, right? We share very honestly about where we're at in our life. And I know different people take it different ways, and there's different reasons why we do that. In some ways, we want the way we speak to be relatable, and we want to share. We feel like when we learn something, then it's an opportunity for us all to learn something. Like God shares with us things, and so we can share them with everybody else. Maybe someone else can benefit from that lesson as well. But also, it's for us. We know that it's easy for us as pastors to try to make our lives look good. We're supposed to be examples and lead such exemplary lives. And I mean, this is often the pitfall of any kind of a leader, right? If either you're a teacher or you're a boss, or whether you're a pastor or a politician, right? You want people to think that you've got your stuff together, you got your life together, that you're someone that's worth looking up to, you're set a good example, and all these kind of things like that. So it's very tempting to hide things. Very tempting to try to make it seem like your life is so great that you don't have challenges, that you don't get into arguments, that you don't sometimes get frustrated and yell at your kids, or like you don't have a big mess in your house that no one else can see, or different things like that. But we recognize that also at the same time, if we don't go out of our way to share and be honest and open about those things, then they become, not only they stay as secrets, or they stay as shadows, but they become a part of your regular life. Like you don't even recognize them as shadows anymore. You recognize they just become, that's my life, that's the way I am. And that's when it becomes really scary, because then we can't differentiate between the shadows in my life and just my way of being, my way of living my life. Instead of recognizing that this mess is not something that I want to have in my life, I just will call myself, I'm just a messy person. That's just the way I am. And people have to accept me to be that way, even if I don't like that part of myself. So I really appreciate this concept so much, because it gives me, it reminds me that each and every one of us has things in our life that we're working on. We're growing. We're trying to become better people. We recognize that God has certain expectations of us. Our founders, true parents, have certain expectations of us, the kind of life that we should live. We all know that there's a certain kind of life that we are called to live, a certain kind of life where we live for others and we enjoy it. We're happy. It's not just some obligation or some kind of expectation that's put on us just because we're following people or something like that. But in order to really root those things out, and the reason why we talk about this stuff publicly is because many times just trying to deal with it yourself is not enough. And especially when you're in a position of leadership, there's even more pressure many times to try to put on a good face. So we try to be proactive about it and just kind of put it out there ahead of time so that we're accountable. So that we're accountable and that we are exposing. So part of the idea of having shadows, exposing the shadow means that you put the sun on it, right? You put the sunshine on the shadow so the shadow disappears. And in our context, the sunshine is each other. And the sunshine is God. And the sunshine is God's word. That's why we read God's word. That's why we pray. That's why we ask for God to be a part of our lives so that he can help us to see where the shadows are and that we can ask him, God, I don't even know where my shadows are. I don't even know how to deal with my garbage in my life, but please help me to see and help me to find solutions so that I can live a life that I feel proud of, that I feel inspired by, that I can be proud to be in front of you as your son or as your daughter. It's not an easy thing to do. You know, sometimes we don't want to deal with our stuff. Sometimes we look at the mess and we're like, I'm not ready for that. I'm just going to shut the door and I'm going to deal with it later. You know, and we did that for a long time in terms of the mess, you know, and things like that. But it just gets worse. It gets worse over time. The things that we put off, they don't just go away. And we can't try to act like they don't affect. We can't try to be naive to believe that they don't affect our other aspects of our lives. I can't accept that the lack of cleanliness doesn't carry over into other areas of my life because I noticed it does. The lack of making effort in that area has carried over into the way we parent our children, into the way we structure our time and our lives and our finances. And I'm a really firm believer that everything is related in our lives. Even things that seem kind of like they're not such a big deal, but they are. And I recognize that going back to the speeches, and I used to attend these speeches that, you know, Reverend Moon would do tours around the country and he would speak about different things. And many times it would go on for hours, 4, 5, 10 hours, you know. And I would get really bored and I would fall asleep and I would ask myself, why is he just talking about the same thing over and over again, you know? Maybe he should add a little variety, you know, to his conversations or something. But I came to recognize over time that he talked about the things that were most important in our lives. He talked about the things that, you know, he could talk about other things, but I realized that if we don't really grasp and integrate into our life, we don't live those main topics that he spoke about. And one of them was this high noon mentality. Many others too, give and take action, mind-body unity, all those things, right? A lot of mind-body unity and concave and convex and all that. Then, you know, it didn't matter all the other stuff that he would talk about. We needed to get those things. So, So looking back on our lives, you know, Adonia and I, there's nothing special about us. There's nothing special. Let me. Thank you for your vote of confidence, but there's really nothing special about us. What is, I believe, if we've done anything right in our lives, it's that we've really tried to put this principle into practice. We've really tried to make our lives accountable in front of other people. That has allowed us to see and allowed other people in our lives to guide us, to point out to us, hey, you guys aren't this, you know, in our relationship, maybe this aspect of parenting or this aspect of your relationship is not healthy. You know, we've had so many people in our lives who, out of really care and love, have shared with us and sometimes talked to us very honestly that, you know, this maybe this is a mistake, or this isn't good, or something like that. And we've had to really try to be accountable to those people, because for us, how we live our life and the kind of life that we live in front of God and in front of true parents for us, is the most important thing. So, I know that it's, many times very tempting. We want to try to do things alone. We want to try to make our own way in life. But in reality, in order for us to have the true sunshine, the sunlight, where we don't have the shadows, we need one another. I can recognize things in other people that they don't see themselves, and people can recognize things about me that I don't see myself. It's just a reality. It's just the way things are. That's why we have the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Sometimes, and we had this experience many times. I used to run a program called BTA, or help run a program called BTA, and we had many, many kids who came to the program. And some of them were very, very rebellious. Some of them were just looking for a different experience, but most of them were in their high school age. And we would talk to them about the divine principle, and we talked to them about God, and we talked to them about how our relationship with God is like the relationship between a parent and a child. And how we would talk to them about how their relationship with their parents is so important, and that they need to be able to be honest in front of their parents, be able to share with them what's actually happening in their lives. Many of their parents don't even know. And we talk about many, many different things. We talk about the divine principle. And it was amazing how many times these kids would come to us and they'd say, I've never heard this stuff before. And then we would talk to the parents and be like, I've been telling them that for 10 years. And it was very, very, very common. It was a very common topic. We would talk about, the staff, we would talk about it for hours upon hours, just this amazing dynamic of what you hear and what you don't hear. But the beauty of that experience was that they could hear it from somebody else, at least. And I look forward to being a part of a community or being part of a greater family where we can have that kind of dynamic, that we can all help one another in a very loving way, not judgmentally, but a very loving way to support one another through life's difficulties. Each and every one of us has unique challenges and difficulties. Nobody's life is the same, but we all have the same end goal. We're all striving to be good sons and daughters before God. We're all striving to live a life that has meaning. And in order to do that, we do need one another. And I hope that we can all make more effort to reach out to one another and draw one another in our community. See the people who are challenged and struggling with different things, and think, how can I support them? And anyway, supporting one another. So unfortunately, I don't really have a clear ending to my message, but, it doesn't end? Oh, thank you. That's very inspiring. I'm very grateful to be a part of this community. I've just felt so much support and care. We're coming up on a 3-year anniversary very soon, and I'll be sharing a little bit at that time. Thank you, Peggy. About all the things that have happened in the last 3 years. So many things have happened in the last 3 years. So many good things. Not all good, but many, many good things. And I really am encouraged to see so much. You may not see it. I don't know how all of you feel, but looking out from the top down, looking at the whole community as a whole, and seeing people. It warms my heart to see people spending time together, getting to know one another that never spent time before, never got to know one another before. People reaching out to others that they wouldn't have reached out to before, and being able to be a part of that. And so, in conclusion, even though maybe we can't all deal with all the junk in our house at once, there's many, many layers or many, many different things, but maybe we can all think of something in our life that we recognize that this isn't something that I feel really proud of. This isn't something that I'm really inspired about in my life. It's going to be different things for different people. I mean, some of you Might be a cleanliness thing like me. Some of you might be the way you relate to your husband, your wife, your children, your parents. Might be an addiction. It might be a temper thing. It might be a money thing. I mean, there's so many things in life, right, that we have to address and deal with. But I really hope that we can all think of something, and then we can all think, how can I do this together with somebody else? Not just like, oh, this is my issue and I have to deal with it myself, but how can we support one another? How can I find somebody else that I can support, and how can I find someone who can help support me in the challenges that I'm going through? And so all of us, we all want to be living in this high noon time, right? We want to live a life where we can be, everything about my life, I feel happy to share with other people. Bring people over to my house anytime and just show people all the things in my life, and even the things that aren't really that good about it, but I'm working on it. That's something to be proud of too, actually. That just the fact that we're working on it and that we're making steps in that direction, we need to celebrate that. So I'm going to finish there, and I'm going to offer a prayer. So if you would please join me in prayer. Good morning, most beloved Heavenly Parent. Thank you so much for all the brothers and sisters here and everybody who couldn't be here today. We have many of our members who are in New York today, who are attending the big event there, and we're so grateful for them to, make that effort to see our true mother and to, just give her a lot of love and support. Heavenly Parent, God, I really pray that in our community and our brothers and sisters everywhere, that we can really invite you into our lives. We know that you love each and every one of us unconditionally and equally, and you want to see each and every one of us to living happy and successful lives. And I pray that we can have the heart to invite you into our lives, to invite one another into our lives, that we can set those foundation, that we can be transformed in our lives, that we can become brighter and more successful people, and that as a community that we can grow and we can become better together. And I really pray that we can, in our coming week, that we can really look at our lives and see the one or two things at this time that we really want to ask you that you can move in every person's life here, that we can make the steps to resolve those issues, that we can become more fully your divine sons and daughters that we were originally meant to be. We recognize, Heavenly Parent, that you have a plan for each and every one of our lives, and you have had a plan for each person since the beginning of creation. And we just pray that we can fulfill that plan, that piece of the puzzle that each and every one of us fits into, that can't be replaced by anybody else, that is special about us, that we can contribute in some meaningful way to the work that you're trying to do in this world, that you're trying to recreate this world and save this world bit by bit. And we recognize that you need us to do that. And I pray, Heavenly Parent, that we can find that little piece that each and every one of us can do, because each and every one of us has that piece, that we can find it, that we can grow with it, and that we can do it, and that we can grow and mature and heal in the process of doing it. And I'm just grateful, Heavenly Parent, for the words that we have, all the foundation of all the people that we stand on the shoulders of that came before us. And I just pray that through that we can accomplish more and do more than was ever able to be done and dreamed of before. And thank you so much for all the blessings and even the challenges that we have in our life. And we want to offer up all of us here and our Sunday service today, even though we have not so many people, and it's very humble, but we want to offer it to you, and I report this in the name of Micah, Donia Hendrick, blessed her family. Amen and Aju. We have ushers. Okay, good.
Thank you, Pastor Michael. Please let's give him another round of applause. Now it's time for our offering. We're going to have our reflection song on, and we're going to invite the ushers to come up with the offering. If you are not able to give your offering, when they come in, you can give it to them. We have envelopes in front of you in the pews. You can give it to them on their way coming.
Dear Heavenly Parent, thank you so much. You bountifully bless us in so many ways, and it's only right that we should give back to you for the sake of your providence, for the sake of your will on this earth. Please receive these offerings and these gifts, Father, from our heart and from our spirit, and we send them with gratitude, Father, that this can be a contribution to the building of your kingdom on this earth. We offer this prayer in the name of the pleasures of Blessed Central Family. Aju.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to invite Pastor Michael back up for the announcement.
I'm so sorry about the microphone. I've decided never to use it again. Never using that one again. So I'm going to share the announcements today. There's just a few extra things that I need to put in. But first of all, I just want to share a few pictures. Some of you may have already seen them on Facebook, but our delegation that went to New York, this is some of them. We had about 20 people who attended, maybe 21. We had maybe 4 or 5 young people who attended the Hyojung workshop, the workshop for young people. And they had a really great, I've heard they've just been having a really great experience. And so New York, of course, is a very famous place to go. And the New Yorker, some people say they haven't been back there in 20 years. So you can see Peggy here. And Cho-Fen used to live here and lives in LA now, so some of you know her. Justine and Hisako-san and Keiko-san. And the Kong family went. The young Ilamira brought their 2 kids, and just really, you can kind of get an idea of the grandeur of the whole experience by just looking at this. I mean, they had to do overflow in the Manhattan Center. I don't know if they filled every seat because they sent out the tickets ahead of time, but it was really quite full. So, very, very cool. I mean, I was blown away by just the professionalism and the quality of the event. Just everything was so nice, and the camera angles, and it's just very, very professional, just like you would see on a major live broadcast. And I was very, very also moved by just the heart that I felt from the people who were putting on the program, and how much they really were truly trying to uplift Mrs. Moon and really kind of just give her the best possible experience possible. That's just the heart I felt from it. And everything went off really well, really, really well. So once again, I'm really proud that we could support it. We didn't do much, but we did buy the hotel rooms for people to be able to stay at the New Yorker, which are not cheap, as you can imagine. And also, the food and stuff while people are there, so it's something, right? Yes, I will email that video out. It's actually already available, so I'll send it out today. And I want to thank you and Gail and Antonio for basically organizing the whole event yesterday. We had about 30, 40 people come. Yeah, 40 people yesterday, so it was really nice. And they provided such nice refreshments for everybody and snacks, and we watched it here in English and Japanese over there, and yeah. Yes. So moving on, July 27th, officially, finally, they are doing the groundbreaking celebration for the Paco Sanchez Park, which is a park right here. And we've been waiting for this for like a year and a half now. They keep saying they're going to do it. But July 27th is the day, 1:30 p.m. Now, I absolutely hate the fact that I'm not going to be here for this. Actually, tomorrow we are leaving for Missouri. We're going to be gone next week. David Stein's giving the sermon next Sunday, so you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a great message. But we're going to be gone for about 9 or 10 days, kind of our vacation. So we unfortunately will be missing this, but I hope that we can have some representation from our community to go. So if you can make this, please come. It's basically open to the public. There's no mention of refreshments, so I wouldn't count on that. But 1:30, Thursday, July 27th, okay? And I'll send an email out about that as well. These are just some areas that we're looking for some help in. I don't really have time to go into all of them, but we're always looking for help in new areas. So if you feel a calling to help with something or be involved in something more than you already are, please let me know. I'm sure I can find a place for you to fit in. I am looking to start doing like a Wednesday beautification. So this is just, it's not a meeting, it's just coming together on Wednesday morning, and we would spend a couple hours to clean, or maybe we'll do some projects, or maybe you have something that you really feel like, I know Lorette's really passionate about the kitchen. She really loves having a clean kitchen. Our kitchen's not very clean. But, if that's a passion for you, you could set that as your time to come in and work together with other people. So you're not doing it by yourself. We can put on some music, we can get some snacks, we can have a really nice time together. So I'm not ready to commit to this yet because we don't really have people, but if you would like to be a part of that, let me know, and then once we have a few people, we'll just get started with it. We have some upcoming Divine Principle workshops. The next one is July 15th to 25th in Las Vegas at the beautiful IPEX Center. And then we have a couple more scheduled in August. So if you or your friend is interested in attending, please let us know. There are some scholarships available to help with the cost. And then next week, the Mokolos are cleaning and cooking, and we need help with volunteers. And then just on a last side note, too, I wanted to, and we have that announcement, but also I just want to remind you all that Reverend Wantete has offered his time and energy to teach anyone who is interested in learning the principle. He's available Monday through Wednesday after 4 o'clock. He's already been teaching people here in the church. He has a wonderful young man, Johanna's guest, that he's teaching, and they're here for hours, sometimes till 10 o'clock at night, right? It's amazing. So he's really making himself, I don't think that he has a lot of extra time, but his passion really is teaching, and we can see that he's a good teacher from the fruits of his teaching. And so if you have someone or want to take advantage of that, please let him know. And then also, on the weeks where he's not having a French service, he's also teaching Divine Principle in French. And of course, there's translation. Someone's usually translating for those. So there's, and that's always an opportunity at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then Alice is going to share one last announcement.
This is not new, but I'm just kind of reinstating or reinforcing an initiative or a project that I have been called to push or to am inspired to initiate. This is, I had kind of an epiphany yesterday during Mother's speech that she was talking about how important it is for us to, how salvation can come through the blessing. And we have a unique salvation that comes for the family through the blessing. And I thought right away, gee, we really ought to have a lot of really good, organized, systematized information about what it means, how the blessing will change your life, how the blessing will elevate your course to become one with God for your family. And yet, we don't have this. It's what I'm going to call a post-blessing curriculum, education curriculum for the family. This is something which is, we likened, in my announcement before, we likened to having the Talmud for Judaism. Judaism, after the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, it became crucial. You couldn't be justified to be a Jew by your service of the temple. You had to find the way to be a Jew in relationship to God's word, in relationship to the Torah, in relationship to the tradition, and so forth. So this is something which I'm initiating. It's a research group. I'm asking brothers and sisters to come to a meeting on the 30th of this month of July and find out how you can participate in this providence. It would involve you researching through your Hundake, the words of the true parents, and gleaning out. There's many phases for this project, but our phase here in Denver will be a collection step to be able to glean out any words that we find in True Father's messages from all the speeches. It's on tparents.org from 1955 until 2011, 12, 13, this era. Also, we have the 3 Holy Scriptures. It's a lot of material we have to comb through. But we know that we have a massive amount of Father's words, but we don't have a systematized, organized document or scripture which can take you through what does it mean to be a blessed couple. So that's it'll be cut and paste, so we begin to have a collection, an actual document of the words of True Father on the blessing and the blessed life. And then we'll begin the next phase, which is to systematize it, find some kind of pattern, and then maybe even have commentaries on it. So this should be, by participating in this project, you're actually participating in a providence which will have eternal value. So your family will be blessed to hear these words, and have give and take with these words, but also our worldwide community will be blessed too, because you're going to be in the midst of creating a project, a scripture, which will have impact for years to come. So anyway, I'm going to reinforce this on the 30th. Come at noon in the side chapel, and we'll kick this off. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. So we're going to have a final song. So we could have the